The night I picked her up, I was already too tired to be driving. It was just after 2 a.m., somewhere between two nothing towns in the middle of Nevada. No lights. No radio signal. Just my headlights cutting a tunnel through the dark and the endless white lines slipping under my truck. I remember thinking, if I don't stop soon, I'm going to kill myself out here. That's when I saw her. She was standing on the shoulder, right beside a faded green mile marker that reads 77. No car. No bag. Just a woman in a long dark coat, her hair moving slightly in the wind. Out here, you don't see anyone on foot. Ever. I slowed down without even thinking about it. She didn't wave. She just looked at me. And when my truck stopped, she walked up to the passenger door and pulled it open. I should have locked it. I didn't. She climbed in and sat down like she'd done it 1,000 times before. "Thank you," she said softly. "I've been waiting." Her voice was calm. Too calm. I asked her where she was headed. "Just a little farther up the road," she replied. "I'll tell you when." I nodded and pulled back onto the highway. For a few minutes, neither of us spoke. I could feel her there beside me, but every time I glanced over, something felt off. Her face looked pale in the dashboard light. Not sick. Just empty. Like she hadn't slept in years. Finally I asked, "You okay, ma'am?" She turned to look at me. Her eyes were dark, reflecting nothing. "Do you know what happened here?" she asked. "Out here?" "No," I said. "Not much happens anywhere near here." She looked forward again. "Something happened to me," she said. "A long time ago. That was when the air in the cab changed. It felt colder. Heavy." We drove in silence for another mile or two until she suddenly said, "Here." I slowed down. "Here? There's nothing here." She pointed out the windshield. Another marker passed in my headlights. Mile 77. My stomach tightened. I was sure we'd already passed that. I pulled over anyway. The road was empty in both directions. She reached for the door handle, then paused. "Thank you for stopping," she said. "Most don't." Then she added, almost like an afterthought, "This is where I died." Before I could react, she opened the door and stepped out into the darkness. I leaned over to watch her walk away. But she didn't. The moment her feet hit the ground, she was gone. No footsteps. No shadow. No sound. I jumped out of the truck, heart pounding, flashlight in hand. I swept the beam across the roadside, the rocks, the brush. Nothing. Just the marker. 77. I told myself she must have walked off fast. That I'd lost sight of her. But deep down, I knew that was a lie. I didn't sleep that night. I drove until sunrise and didn't pick up another hitchhiker again. Weeks later, at a truck stop near Reno, I overheard two older drivers talking about a wreck that happened years back. A woman had been hit by a semi while walking along the highway late at night. The driver never stopped. They said her body was found near mile marker 77. I felt my hands start to shake. I asked them when it happened. "Late 90s, I think," one of them said. "Why?" I didn't answer. I finished my coffee, paid, and left. I tried to forget about it. I really did. But about a year later, I was hauling through that same stretch again, just after midnight. I wasn't planning to stop. Then I saw her. Same place. Same coat. Same mile marker. She stood there, staring at the road, waiting. This time, I didn't slow down. I kept my eyes forward, my foot steady on the gas, pretending she wasn't there. As I passed, I glanced in my side mirror. She was looking straight at me. And she was smiling. I don't drive that route anymore. Some roads remember what happened on them. And sometimes, they don't let it go. Story 2. The truck that followed me. The first time I noticed it, I thought it was just coincidence. It was around 1:30 in the morning, somewhere on I-80 in Wyoming. Long straight road, nothing but wind and darkness, and my headlights carving through it like a knife. I had been driving for hours without seeing another soul when a pair of headlights appeared in my mirror. A truck. That alone wasn't strange. But what caught my attention was how it kept its distance. Not passing. Not falling back. Just sitting there, maybe 200 meters behind me. For miles. I sped up a little. So did it. I slowed down. It slowed too. After about 10 minutes, I felt that familiar tight feeling in my chest you get when something isn't right. I radioed out on the CB. Driver behind me, you got a reason for tailing me this long? Static. No reply. I shrugged it off. Maybe he was tired. Maybe I was overthinking it. Another 20 minutes passed. Still there. I changed lanes. He stayed behind me. I hit my brakes lightly. He matched it perfectly. That's when I knew it wasn't random. I checked my mirrors more closely. The headlights were dim, yellowish, like old halogen bulbs. But I couldn't see the shape of the truck. No logo. No outline. Just lights floating in the dark. I picked up the radio again. Hey, buddy. If you need to pass, go ahead. Nothing. By now my hands were gripping the wheel harder than they should. I decided to pull into the next rest area. Let him go by. Problem solved. A sign appeared, rest area, 2 miles. I slowed down and took the exit. The rest area was completely empty. No cars. No lights except a few flickering lamps near the bathrooms. I rolled in, parked near the entrance. And waited. 10 seconds passed. Then 20. He never followed me in. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Just some weirdo, I muttered to myself. After a minute, I pulled back onto the highway. And nearly jumped out of my seat. The headlights were there again. Right behind me. There is no way he could have passed me. There were no other exits. No side roads. My heart started pounding. Now I was wide awake. I accelerated. 65. 70. 75. He stayed with me. I slowed back down. Still there. I tried to focus on the road, telling myself it was just another driver messing around. But every few seconds my eyes went back to that mirror. After another 10 miles, I noticed something worse. He wasn't just following me. He was getting closer. Little by little, the distance shrank. The headlights grew brighter. I changed lanes again. So did he. I felt trapped, like something was stalking me in the dark. I grabbed the radio once more. Last warning, man. Back off. Only static answered. Then, suddenly, the headlights flicked off. The road behind me went black. For a moment, I felt relief. Then I saw them again. Right next to me. In the left lane. So close I could see the reflection of my own trailer in their glass. But there was still no shape. No cab. No trailer. Just lights. Floating. I stared in disbelief, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Then, slowly, the lights began to drift closer. Toward my lane. Toward me. I swerved slightly, my tires humming on the road. The lights matched my movement, staying right there. Panic took over. I slammed the accelerator and pushed my rig harder than I should have. The engine roared. The speed climbed. The lights didn't fall back. They stayed beside me, steady, silent. And then, they began to rise. Up. Higher than my cab. Like whatever was behind them was lifting off the ground. I looked up through the side window. And saw nothing. No truck. No wheels. No body. Just those two lights, hovering in the air, level with my windshield. My stomach dropped. Then, as suddenly as they had appeared, they were gone. No fade. No movement. Just darkness. I nearly missed the road when they vanished. My hands were shaking so badly I had to fight to keep the truck straight. I drove the rest of the night in silence, jumping at every reflection, every shadow. At sunrise, I pulled into a truck stop and told another driver what happened. He went quiet when I mentioned where it was. "I've heard that before," he said. "Years ago, there was a fatal wreck out there. 2 semis. One driver burned in his cab. They say sometimes his lights still follow people through that stretch." I laughed it off, pretending it didn't bother me. But I haven't driven I-80 at night since. Because sometimes, when the road is empty and your mirrors are dark, you start wondering what's really behind you. Story 3, the mile marker that shouldn't exist. I almost didn't stop. That's what scares me most. It was just after 2 a.m., somewhere in northern New Mexico, hauling frozen food east. Empty highway, no radio chatter, nothing but the hum of tires and the ticking of my dashboard clock. I was tired. Not falling asleep tired. The heavy kind that makes your thoughts slow and your eyes burn. That's when I saw the sign. Mile 317. Nothing strange about that. Except, 10 minutes later, I saw it again. Mile 317. Same cracked post. Same peeling paint. Same bullet holes in the metal. I frowned, checked my GPS. It said I'd gone nearly 12 miles. I told myself I must have misread it. Another few minutes passed. Then another sign slid into my headlights. Mile 316. I relaxed a bit. "Okay," I muttered. "Guess I just missed one." But something felt off. The numbers looked wrong. The paint was old. Faded. Like the sign had been there for decades, untouched. Then I passed 315. Then 314. But here's the thing, I knew this stretch of road. I'd driven it dozens of times. And there were no mile markers here. Not like this. The state had removed them years ago. I checked my mirrors. No other trucks. No cars. Just me. Then I saw 313. I started feeling that tight pressure in my chest again. I slowed down, rolled the window, half expecting to hear something. Wind rushed in. Nothing else. Then 312 appeared. Same style. Same rust. Same bullet holes. I grabbed the radio. Anyone else on this stretch seeing mile markers? Static. I drove on. 311. 310. Each one passed at perfect intervals. Like I was being guided. I told myself it was exhaustion. Hallucinations happen when you're tired. But then my GPS did something strange. It froze. The arrow stopped moving, even though my speed read 65. Distance to destination stayed the same. That's when the fear really set in. I hit the brakes lightly, slowed to 50. The road ahead didn't change. And the next sign still came. Mile 309. I pulled over onto the shoulder and stopped completely. The engine idled. The night swallowed my headlights. I waited. Nothing happened. No sign. No movement. I sat there for a full minute, heart pounding, then eased back onto the road. Not 30 seconds later, another post emerged from the dark. Mile 308. I stared at it in disbelief. How the hell? I whispered. My GPS still showed me frozen in place. I decided I wasn't doing this anymore. I looked for the next exit. There wasn't one. Just endless black road. And signs. 307. 306. I sped up. They still came. I slowed down. They still came. No matter what I did, every mile, perfectly timed, another number. The road never curved. Never rose. Never changed. Just straight into darkness. When I passed 300, my hands were shaking. I tried to turn off the highway, steering right, but there was nothing. No shoulder. No dirt. Just more road. Like the world outside my headlights didn't exist anymore. At 295, I started talking out loud just to hear a voice. At the next sign, I'm turning around, I said. I reached 294. I slowed, signaled, and tried to make a U-turn. The steering wheel locked. Wouldn't budge. The truck stayed perfectly straight. I was no longer driving. I was being carried. At 290, I noticed something worse. There were tire marks on the road now. Deep, dark grooves. Like heavy trucks had skidded here. Dozens of them. All pointing forward. Never back. By the time I hit 285, I was sweating through my shirt despite the cold. I slammed the radio again. Anyone out there? I need help. Static. Then, a faint voice crackled through. Don't stop. I nearly jumped. Hello? Who is this? The voice came again, broken and distant. Keep moving. Don't stop at 0. My stomach dropped. What's 0? I shouted. No answer. But my eyes were already locked on the road ahead. 284. 283. The numbers were falling faster now. Or maybe it just felt that way. When I reached 275, I started seeing things on the side of the road. Shapes. Dark outlines of trucks. Wrecked. Burned. Cabs twisted like crushed cans. They weren't fully in my headlights. Just enough to know they were there. Dozens of them. All facing the same direction. All pointing toward whatever waited ahead. By 260, I was crying. I didn't even realize it until I tasted salt. Please, I whispered. Please let this end. The signs kept coming. 250. 240. 230. The air felt thicker. Like driving into fog, but there was nothing to see. My headlights seemed weaker. At 220, I saw a figure standing beside one of the wrecks. Just a silhouette. Watching me pass. At 210, another. And another. By 200, they lined both sides of the road. Dozens of shapes, standing still, facing the highway. Waiting. I couldn't look at them anymore. I stared straight ahead, counting down in my head. 150. 100. My radio suddenly came alive again. Almost there. The voice sounded closer now. Clearer. Whatever you do, don't stop. I was shaking so hard I could barely keep my foot on the pedal. 50. The air grew cold. Frost crept across the edges of my windshield. My breath fogged. Then I saw it. Ahead of me. The last sign. Bigger than the others. Brighter. Painted fresh. Mile 0. I knew, deep down, that if I reached it, something final would happen. I don't know how I knew. I just did. I screamed and stomped the brakes. The truck shuddered. The tires screamed. But it didn't stop. It slowed. But kept rolling. Closer. Closer. The sign filled my windshield. I closed my eyes. And then, silence. No engine. No road noise. Nothing. When I opened my eyes, it was morning. Sunlight through the windshield. Birds. My truck was parked on the shoulder of a normal highway. No signs. No wrecks. No silhouettes. My GPS blinked back to life, showing I was nearly 50 miles ahead of where I remembered being. I sat there for a long time before I could move. Later, at a diner, I asked an old local about mile markers on that road. He went quiet. There used to be a stretch like that, he said. Decades ago. Before they rerouted it. Lot of bad wrecks. Trucks that just vanished. I don't drive that road anymore. Because sometimes, late at night, when I pass a normal mile marker, I still flinch. Afraid it might start counting down. Story 4, the convoy that never stopped. The call came over Channel 19 just after midnight. Any truck heading east on I-40, you might want to slow it down. The voice sounded calm. Too calm. I grabbed the mic. Why's that? Accident ahead? A pause. Just don't try to pass the convoy. That was it. No explanation. Just static after. I frowned and kept driving. I'd been hauling electronics from Arizona to Oklahoma, empty road, clear weather, nothing but stars and asphalt. I figured it was some guy messing around. Happens all the time. Then, about 10 minutes later, I saw them. Headlights. A lot of them. At least 6 trucks, lined up perfectly in the right lane, all driving just under the speed limit. Their tail lights glowed red in a long, unbroken chain. That was strange already. Truckers usually spread out. Everyone's got their own pace. But these guys? They moved like a single machine. Same distance. Same speed. No gaps. I slowed and tucked in behind them. Their rigs looked old. Not rusty, but outdated. Square cabs. Faded company logos I didn't recognize. One had a name half scratched off the door, like someone had tried to erase it. I flipped to Channel 19. Hey, convoy up ahead. Anyone copy? No response. I tried again. Nothing. I figured they were just keeping to themselves. After a few miles, I decided to pass. I pulled left, eased onto the accelerator, and started creeping up alongside the last truck. That's when my radio burst to life again. Don't, the same calm voice said. Stay where you are. I jumped. What the hell? I muttered, gripping the wheel. I looked back at the truck I was passing. There was no driver. The cab was dark. No silhouette. No movement. Just empty glass. My heart slammed. I dropped back into the right lane immediately. I told myself it was just the angle. Maybe tinted windows. Maybe I couldn't see inside. But then I started paying attention. None of the trucks had lit cabs. Not one. No glow from dashboards. No movement behind the glass. Just dark boxes on wheels, rolling through the night. Okay, I whispered. That's not normal. I keyed the mic again. Convoy, you guys okay? You need help? Silence. The road sign said the next exit was 12 miles away. I decided I'd take it. Didn't matter if I needed it or not. I just wanted away from them. But as we drove, something else bothered me. My GPS said I was going 62. My speedometer said 62. But the mile markers were coming slower. Like time itself had stretched. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The exit sign still said 12 miles. The convoy never changed speed. Never drifted. Never broke formation. At one point, I swear I saw something move in one of the mirrors, a shadow shifting behind a windshield. But when I blinked, it was gone. The radio crackled again. You can follow them as long as you want, the voice said. They won't mind. My mouth went dry. Who is this? I demanded. What is this convoy? Another pause. They don't remember anymore. The exit sign came again. 12 miles. Same number. I hit the brakes a little, letting distance grow between me and the last truck. The moment I did, every brake light in the convoy flared red at once. All 6 trucks slowed with me. Perfectly. I sped up. They sped up. I slowed. They slowed. They were matching me. My chest tightened. Stop it, I muttered. Just go. I took my foot off the pedal completely. The convoy slowed to a crawl. 20 miles an hour. Then 10. Then they were barely rolling. I was trapped behind them. Sweat ran down my back despite the cold cab. All right, I said out loud. I'm done with this. I swung left again, heart pounding, and floored it. This time, the radio screamed. Don't pass them. The voice was no longer calm. It sounded afraid. But I was already alongside the last truck. I glanced into the cab. Still empty. But this time, something else was there. Handprints. Pressed against the inside of the windshield. Dozens of them. Overlapping. Smeared. Like people had once been trapped inside, clawing at the glass. I screamed and pushed harder. As I pulled ahead, I looked into the next cab. Same thing. Empty seat. Handprints. Then the next. And the next. Every single one. No drivers. Just marks left behind. My headlights flickered. The air felt heavy, like I was driving through thick smoke. Then, as I pulled alongside the lead truck, I saw the door. The company name was still barely visible. Red Hollow Freight. Something about it made my stomach drop. I'd heard that name before. Years ago. A story at a truck stop. About a freight company whose entire night convoy vanished in the desert. 6 trucks. No wrecks. No bodies. Just gone. They were never found. Until now. I blasted past the lead truck, my engine roaring, and felt a sudden release, like a pressure lifting. The road ahead was empty. No headlights. No tail lights. Just darkness. I kept driving. Didn't look back. Didn't slow down. Didn't breathe. After what felt like forever, my radio crackled one last time. Good, the voice said softly. You made it. Who are you? I whispered. Another pause. I didn't. The line went dead. I didn't stop until I reached the next town, pulled into a lit gas station, and sat there shaking for a long time. The clerk inside was an old man with tired eyes. I told him what I'd seen. When I said the name Red Hollow Freight, his face drained of color. They ran night convoys back in the 70s, he said quietly. All went missing on this stretch. Folks say sometimes they still drive, looking for someone to follow them. I asked what happens if you do. He shook his head. Never heard of anyone coming back. I don't drive I-40 at night anymore. And when I hear a calm voice on the radio telling me not to pass something, I listen. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. These were just a few of the stories truckers whisper about when the roads get quiet. If one of them stayed with you, let me know in the comments. I read every message. And if you enjoy dark stories like these, consider subscribing. New horror stories every week. Drive safe. And good night.